Hello again and welcome to the Power User Training. In this video we're going to be setting up call flows. So a call flow in a phone system refers to the path that the incoming calls are going to follow that is going to take them to yourself or to one of your agents. Now there are a lot of different elements that can be used, drag and drop elements that can be used in order to manage and route these calls, and we're going to be covering those inside of this video. You'll have all sorts of options like greetings, IVR menus, extensions, voicemails, and much more. So we're going to click on the profile icon, click on preferences. We're going to go over here to phones, and then you'll select call flows. Now, one thing I will mention before you set up the call flow, it's a good idea for you to go in and check your ring group options first. So what is a ring group? Well, a ring group is what tells the system what extensions or what users to ring and how to ring them when they're being applied to a call flow. So for example, if you have a ring group selected, you might have everybody in your office set to receive that call. So for example, if you had 3 people in the office and you're using the ring group of all users, then it's going to ring everybody that is inside of that ring group, and then it's going to call them on whatever option that you have defined inside of next to that user. So for example, Mary Sample here, she's set to receive her calls on her browser, but if she's going to be leaving the office, she could just set herself to DND or do not disturb, and then she wouldn't receive any phone calls. Or when she comes back, maybe she wants to forward her calls outside of the office and she has some external line set up for that, and it would forward those calls. Now, Ring Browser is the best option because Ring Browser is going to show you the caller information when it comes in. It's going to ring on the browser inside of the system, and you'll see the caller information, notes, scripts, call dispositions, and a lot more. Okay, so once you've set up your ring group, and by the way, you can have single ring groups or you can have multiple user ring groups. So just keep that in mind. When you set up your account, you will receive a ring group for every user, as well as every user will be automatically applied to the all user. So if you add an agent, they're going to get added to the all user, and then they're also going to get their own separate caller group, ring group set up as well. Now, once you've got your ring group set up, then the next thing you're going to want to do is try to figure out how you want to receive your calls. So we're going to go ahead and select Add New Call Flow. We're going to name this Sample. And then once you've created the call group, then you're going to select this gear. And when you open this up, you're going to notice you have an option to add a condition. So a condition call flow is an option that allows you to do something based off of one of these conditions. So if a lead has a certain tag, for example, let's say they have this 123 tag, I can set up a condition where this path will be followed instead of the default path. So for example, if you had a Spanish speaking agent in the office that handles all of your Spanish speaker callers, then by default, if they had the tag Spanish, then it would take them directly to this condition, and you can set up a flow specifically for that condition. Now in this case, we're just going to go ahead and set up one single flow. So when you open up the call flow itself, this is your canvas. You'll see over here on the top you have your options, and then here on the right you have the ability to minimize the size of your canvas. So if you want to zoom out, you can, and you could drag and move this around. Now, once you've done that, once you've set your canvas how you'd like it, then you can start to decide which options you want to use on your call flow. So a greeting is going to play a greeting to the caller when they call, and then that's it. Just plays the greeting. So if I select greeting here, I have two options. One is a text-to-speech option, or two, I can either upload or record a personal greeting. So for example, I might just record a personal greeting that just says, "Thank you for calling. All calls are recorded for quality assurance. Please hold while I transfer you to the next available agent." And then when I'm done, I stop and save. Okay, now my greeting's recorded. So you'll notice down underneath the greeting in the bottom right hand corner, I now have an option that says, "What do you want to do next? Drop here." So if I grab one of these options up here, I can then drop that down, and you'll see this arrow is directing you to what the call flow is, so how the call flow is set up. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's say, what do we want to do next after the greeting? Well, maybe we'd like to just do a forward. Okay, if you do a forward, then what that's going to do is it'll forward to some outside line or some outside phone number. Now, when you select that option, you have the ability to put in the phone number you want to dial, and then you can decide if you'd like to show the caller ID of the caller or the caller ID of the campaign line, which in this case would be the number that you have here inside of the system. So if you show the caller ID of the caller, it'll pass through the caller's caller ID on that line, and you'll be able to identify who's calling that way. So you just put in the phone number that you'd like to dial to. And then here you would select the timeout. Timeout is how long do you want it to perform this forward if nobody answers, if nobody picks up, to stop and go to the next option in your flow. So let's say you put 20 seconds, click save, and now your timeout is 20 seconds. So if 20 seconds passes and nobody answers, then it'll go to the next option. So a lot of times what you might do is just go ahead and put like a voicemail. And here you now have a greeting, and then you have the transfer outside line, and now you have a voicemail, and you could do a text-to-speech or record. And then after you've recorded the voicemail, then you would just drag the hang up. That's the final flow. But you could see here very easily, I've just designed an entire call flow for a forwarding to an outside line. Okay. Now, let's say you want to do something a little bit more advanced. Maybe you would like to you'd like to set up a call queue inside of the office where everybody in the office receives the call, or everybody receives a phone call at the same time, and then whoever answers the call first gets the call. And that's very simple. What you would do is just use Ring Group. Now, you can combine Ring Group with other features, but when you select the Ring Group option, you'll see here the top is for you. The top selection is for you to decide which ring group you would like to use. So in this case, if I were to select, for example, Mary Sample would be the only person receiving that call. However, if I select all users, then everybody that's assigned to that all user call ring group would be assigned. Now, the next thing after that is you have the ability to decide whether you would like to use the caller ID of the caller or the caller ID of the inbound campaign. Again, it's actually a good idea to use the caller ID of the caller if you're going to be receiving the calls inside the system, because if you try to use the same caller ID of the inbound campaign line, then you wouldn't be able to see the names of the callers that are coming through or any of the other information that you have on the lead. But if you have this option selected, it's going to pop up the user or the caller's information if you have that in the system. Next, you have the ability to select whether you want to do a simultaneous, which brings everybody at once, random, or sequential. Again, keep this in mind. If you do select random or sequential, this is going to put a delay between the time that the caller calls and somebody answers. So it might try just randomly some user trying to spread things out may not actually work as well as intended. It's usually suggested to use the simultaneous ring. After you do the call type, then you have the ability to decide how long you want it to ring or try before it times out. And then here is a hold time. So while the queue is full, let's say that you have 2 users in your caller group or 2 agents in your caller group, and you have 2, they're both engaged with an inbound call, then you can set a time where you would leave the third caller that comes in on hold before taking them to the next option in the flow. So in this case, I've set 4 minutes, and then they're going to hear either the male or the female hold music that's already assigned, or you can record your own. Now, that is pretty much it when it comes to setting up the call flow. Then obviously you'd want to have some kind of a step if once they're out of that call flow. Again, it's usually suggested to add voicemail as that step. So same thing as before, you have the option of either recording a greeting, or uploading a greeting, or using text to speech. So there you go. That is the basics on how to set up a IVR call flow. You could try out all of these different options. We do have many different options to choose from. You can set up a menu option. A menu option would give you the ability to set up a phone tree. So press 1 for sales, 2 for support, 3 for billing, and then based off of the option that they select, you can take them into these different features up here. So you could take them straight to a voicemail, or you could forward them to an outside line, or whatever. Now also you'll notice that when they press these buttons, they can automatically, a tag can automatically be added, or a group can be added or removed. So this is very handy if you're trying to track the options that people are selecting when they come through. You can also set the menu to repeat. If there's no if there wasn't a key pressed, it'll repeat the menu a certain number of times before going to the next item. So that pretty much sums up the call flow options here. Again, it's a good idea just to play around with it and see what you can build. It's very user friendly, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.